Touching story presents the HOA's worst mistake. Imagine receiving a phone call from your elderly mother, her voice shaking, her home being bulldozed right in front of her eyes. Now imagine that happening while you're at a mayor's conference, unable to do anything, yet. What the HOA didn't know was that they had just made an enemy out of the one person who could destroy them legally, publicly, and permanently. This is the story of how one corrupt HOA met its match and lost. I had always known Karen Whitfield, the HOA president, to be a ruthless, power-hungry woman. But I never expected her to go as far as demolishing my mother's home for a parking lot. It started small: petty violation notices, unreasonable fines, threats about property values. My mother, a widow, had lived in our family home for 40 years, never once facing issues with the HOA. Then, suddenly, her rose bushes were too tall, her bird feeder was unsightly, and my father's beloved wind chimes were labeled unauthorized decorations. It didn't take long to see the pattern. Karen wasn't just harassing my mother, she was targeting her. And when I saw her meeting with Golden Parking Solutions, a development company owned by her husband, I knew exactly what was happening. They wanted Mom's land. At the next HOA meeting, Karen unveiled her so-called Community Enhancement Project, a parking lot and retail space to increase property values. The location? A group of underperforming properties, including my mother's home. I stood up. Have the homeowners been consulted? Karen smirked. The HOA has the right to make decisions for the greater good. Your mother's outdated home is holding this neighborhood back. I clenched my jaw, resisting the urge to explode. She thought I couldn't stop her. She was wrong. Days later, while I was out of town at a mayor's conference, I got the call that changed everything. "Sweetie, there are big yellow machines outside. They're tearing up my garden. My roses." Her voice cracked. "Karen is here. She says I have 10 minutes to leave." I bolted out of the meeting, trying to call the police, the HOA, anyone who could stop it. But Karen had planned this perfectly. She had filed an emergency demolition order, claiming my mother's house was a safety hazard. By the time my flight landed, everything, every memory, every piece of my childhood was gone. Karen stood there, sipping champagne on her porch, watching it happen. But what she didn't realize was that this wasn't over. The next morning, fueled by rage and determination, I dug through city records and HOA bylaws. And then I found it, the loophole Karen had missed. The HOA had no legal jurisdiction over my mother's property. Their boundary ended 3.5 feet before where they started demolition. Not only was the HOA's action illegal, but the contract with Golden Parking Solutions? A clear case of fraud. Karen and her husband had been orchestrating land grabs for years, targeting elderly residents, issuing fake violations, and forcing them to sell their homes. I had the evidence. Now, it was time to use it. That evening, at a packed emergency city council meeting, I walked in with a briefcase full of proof. News cameras lined the walls. Karen sat in the front row, confident as ever, until I started speaking. "Last week, my mother's home was illegally demolished by this HOA." Gasps echoed through the chamber. I clicked to the next slide, property maps from 1975, showing the original neighborhood lines. The HOA's jurisdiction ends here. Everything they did was illegal. Karen's smirk wavered. Then, I pulled up emails and contracts, documents showing that Karen and her husband had been profiting from these demolitions. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in kickbacks. The room erupted in whispers. The other HOA board members turned pale. Then I played the final piece, an audio recording of Karen discussing bribes with developers. She shot up from her seat. "This is a witch hunt," she shrieked. "You're just mad about your mother's worthless house." The chamber fell into stunned silence. Then I smiled. "Thank you for admitting that on record, Karen." Game over. Within 24 hours, the city froze all HOA assets pending investigation. Karen was arrested for fraud, embezzlement, and illegal demolition. Her husband? Charged with conspiracy. The entire HOA board was removed, and the victims were granted financial restitution. As for my mother, we rebuilt her home. Bigger, better, stronger. The spot Karen had planned for her parking lot turned into a community garden, named in my father's honor. And Karen? She was last seen leaving town in the middle of the night, trying to avoid the reporters camped outside her house. She thought she could get away with destroying my mother's home. She thought wrong. Thank you for watching Touching Story. If you enjoyed this tale, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that inspire and expose injustice. See you in the next one.